Right, I think that's live. Everybody let me know if it's live and then I'll get started. Because in the past I've done these things and I've been talking to myself for 10 minutes and realised that it's not working. So I'm assuming that's working, so everyone just gives a thumbs up and let me know if it is. I'm going to do the same as I did last time, which is basically do this, everyone get their questions in the first 20 minutes or something like that. So all the Patreon guys and girls, get all your questions in. And then I'm going to open it up to the masses again. But if anyone doesn't, if anyone takes offence or just doesn't want me to do that, just let me know. And obviously, you guys pay for this service, if that's what you can call it. And if you don't want me to do that, just let me know. I'm happy to do whatever it is that you guys want me to do. But otherwise, that's how I'll do it. So if you get all your questions in, just write them in, and I'll go through all of yours, and then I'll get through to the public. So because that's my intention, if everyone can just like this to make me seem more popular than I really am, I'd really appreciate it. So I'm going to start with a summary, because it's always best to I suppose for me to give you my overview of the market. That way we can look at these charts and bear in mind what it is that I think is going to happen overall, because there's no point in, and I say this every time, there's no point in us looking at a chart and going, well, that chart looks great, let's go for gold, and certain other components of a bigger picture will basically cross that chart off. So this is my overview. By the way, is this loud and clear? That's good. Okay. Right then, so before we start, this is my overview. Right, so first of all, this isn't anything to really go by, but longs are pretty high, and this isn't really much to go by, but it's generally something to consider. When longs are getting this high, it's almost asking to get wrecked, right? Because this is what this is. This is longs on BitMEX and Binance. This, I just don't believe this anymore. So I just look at these two. So technically, it's these can go higher. These can definitely go higher. If they do get much higher than this, I would be looking for a flash crash kind of pullback vibe. But that's rule number one. But that's something you shouldn't really think too much about. So just forget about that. That's very short term stuff, right? That's literally if these get into the 70s, higher 70s, I would say, then that's what I'd expect for the retailers to get wrecked. But this is the main thing. So if you remember on the last stream, we were looking at the Dixie, and we need to focus on the Dixie as well, quite a lot actually. I think we really need to put a lot of emphasis on this. So for those who don't know, this is the Dixie, the dollar index, and the stronger the dollar gets, the harder it is for assets like indexes, can't get my words out, indexes, commodities and cryptocurrencies to make significant gains. Well, I say cryptocurrencies, I mean we've all seen things like Holochain and all these other things just popping up. We're talking mainly about the big ones, really, with the large market caps. So, we had this pitchfork in as a rough guide. There was two pitchforks we used. I preferred this one. This is my preference, giving us a general direction and rough time frame of how we're looking to play this out if we don't just explode. Also, we had this box here. This is our resistance box that we had no problem getting through to start with, and trust me, it's just pure coincidence that it's well, it might not be coincidence. It might be technical analysis. I don't know, but it's been rejected so far at the very top of that box, which is good, and it corresponds. The reason I drew that box in, this box has been in there a long time. We were looking at this box when we first came down into it, when we were first thinking back here in August, September, and so on, that there was going to be a reversal back here. So yeah, it's been rejected there. It's also quite close to the top of that pitchfork. So unless the Dixie really does push, literally massive, like pump, if it starts pumping, which would be a real issue, I am expecting a short-term pullback at this level. So that would be nice for Bitcoin and would allow for that next leg up, which excuse me. I was eating dry roasted peanuts just before this, and I didn't bring a drink up with me, so my voice is probably going to go. So what I was saying is that this could be, and it is, in my opinion, most likely the area for a short-term pullback. And any kind of pullback with the Dixie is going to be good for crypto. And remember, this is the trajectory I'm expecting to this white line here, which again, leads me into my next theory that I spoke about before, which is the next big alt season, and I'm talking about a real massive alt season where top caps rally big and everything rallies big, is in my opinion, we might get one now. Technically we're already in one, we're still in one. We are still in the original alt season that started in January. We are still in that. It might not feel like it to a lot of people, but we are technically still in that. But the next big one, in my opinion, is going to be between May and August, and that also corresponds to this pitchfork quite nicely. So that's not how I came to that conclusion, by the way. That's based upon lots of altcoins weekly charts that show a lot of opportunity around May to August, XRP being one of those, and that has been something that I charted out way back. You'll have to look at my XRP market cycle video. It's all on record. I'm not blowing my own trumpet, and obviously I'm talking about something that's not even happened and might not even happen, but I said nothing spectacular is going to happen to XRP until after May. So when I look at these charts, I look at them on the longest term time frames, because it's those ones that offer the biggest gains. Because my preference really is spot trading. I don't really do much margin trading. Even when I have the time to do it, I don't really do it. But it's there if I want it, but I don't really do it. Spot trading is my preference, because I'm all about risk management. And the best way to do spot trading is to look at the biggest picture possible. So that's the weekly and the monthly sometimes. And that's what it says. And now that we've got this Dixie trajectory, that also corresponds to my original thoughts from back before this first alt season, which is May, I suppose May at the earliest, August at the latest, for the next big, significant, massive push. But that's not saying that we're not going to get a push right now. And if we have a look at Bitcoin dominance, basically the same old thing. And this might offer itself up to some more gains in the short term. Definitely, it might definitely do that. The problem is the Dixie, and that's why I put such emphasis on the Dixie. The Dixie is in an uptrend. It's got one of those. It's got one of those setups which is uptrend until further notice. That's the conversion baseline. That's the Ichimoku cloud that we've used to chart that one out. So we've got the Ichi cloud. We're testing this resistance here. We've got this trajectory leading us up to a significant, probably a major rejection around May to August. So until then, we're going to be playing this range, and I think we're going to get a pullback, which would, lead me to believe that we are looking for a pump across the board immediately. Well, that's not the right way to look at it, but let's have a look at Bitcoin now. So now I've got that out the way. So overall, we're looking for some struggling, some hard times ahead over the next month or two, or more maybe. Maybe not super corrections, but pressure from the Dixie. It's gonna hold us back. And you can think about this in what's happened today, actually. So this is one way to put it into perspective. So arguably one of the most bullish things that's ever happened on a fundamental basis for Bitcoin and some of the top caps today was announced. The whole PayPal allowing you to use crypto as a payment system, for merchants. That is a massive deal. That is a big bloody deal. But look, it didn't really have much of an impact on the price. Now, normally you would imagine something like that you would imagine that would rocket the price. You've seen a lot, things rocket for a lot less, like Elon Musk, for instance, just buying it. For instance, I bought some. Well, it wasn't some; it was a fair amount. Or Elon Musk just tweeting Bitcoin, or saying that he's going to accept Bitcoin. Those sort of things have caused bigger pumps than what's happened today. So, that in itself is a little bit, I would put that down to the Dixie's strength, but there wasn't much of a reaction. And you could probably argue that a lot of that has been priced in, and maybe this was expected, but still, it was a bit of a... It was underwhelming, wasn't it? It was underwhelming. So just think about it like that. Normally, you would imagine something like that. That's the dream, isn't it? That is the Bitcoin dream. Now we can buy, used trainers on eBay with Bitcoin. We can now, we can do all of that. Well, we can't, but it's in the pipeline. is likely to go ahead and be available for all of us. It's one of those things that's sort of buy the rumor, sell the news type of thing. But the rumor wasn't bought; it was barely moved at all. So, yeah, that is a little concerning. But again, the Dixie is strong, as we've seen here, and I'll put it down to that. So I've rambled long enough. Overall, I'm expecting for a short-term pullback on this, which should allow for Bitcoin to have another pump. So I'm just getting used to all of this. So now let's have a quick look at Bitcoin, and then we'll move on to all your requests. So Bitcoin, it's looking okay. I mean, it's looking okay. This cross up here, and the fact that we haven't yet touched these this RSI, this bearish divergence, still has room to move before it's triggered. Also on the 3 daily, we've got a similar kind of vibe going on here. Still got room to move before there's a rejection. If you just have a look at this, this is very rough and ready. It's not exactly perfect, but you would argue that yes, this one didn't touch the trend line, and this one may not touch the trend line, so we might get front run on this. But even if we were to get front run, there's still room for another move, another push, which is what I'm expecting. If we go back to the daily, we do have this formation here, this ascending triangle vibe going off here. We're also still Ichimoku cloud crossed. There's nothing to say that this uptrend hasn't yet been cancelled out. It was very close, you can see, very close, and this was also very close, but it's also not been cancelled out. So short term, definitely I am still quite bullish and looking for a pump. There might be a flash dump here and there, a bit of a liquidity grab before the next move back up, but yeah, short term I'm bullish with the Dixie, with this formation, with the Ichimoku cloud. All of that lends itself to probably a new all-time high, probably this week, right? Probably this week. But then after that, I would get concerned because the Dixie will continue with its march up, in my opinion, and this bearish divergence will likely hit the trend line on the weekly here, and on the 3 daily. So that, with all of that in mind, on the next big push, when we reach the next all-time high, which could quite easily be this week, I would be looking to limit a lot of my positions at that point. All right, and that's just me. I'm not, I don't want to influence you in any way, but the warning signs are there for a significant pullback, correction, maybe even miniature bear market, while the Dixie continues with its march and this bearish divergence plays out. So, in a nutshell, what I'm looking at, what I'm thinking about is, even with this, this Bitcoin dominance, which could break down below 60, and we'd all get very excited and start going crazy on alts. And I'm sure there's a lot of people, I know there is, on Twitter calling for the biggest alt season you've ever seen in your life when this breaks down below 60. That's an oversimplified view of what's really going on. This is good. This shows a big picture. Bitcoin also shows the big picture, but this really does show the biggest picture, in my opinion. And there's going to be plenty of opportunity between May and August. Even if we're going down, the opportunity is to accumulate some of these alts and probably even Bitcoin. So I'm looking for another big push as this gets rejected, and that the Bitcoin chart looks so good in the short term. Doesn't mean that we can't pull back to, even to the center of the Bollinger before that, but I'm looking for a new all-time high this week. Whether it does it from this price here, or if it even comes down to the 10 exponential or the center of the Bollinger Band between 55 and 56.5, maybe 57. So it's very rough and ready, where we're going to launch from. But short term, I am bullish on the market. Literally this week, just this week. But we have to keep our eye on the Dixie. So that monologue has gone on for 13 minutes. So hopefully that has put things into perspective for you. And just one other thing I'll just briefly mention: as the Bitcoin dominance continues to go essentially sideways with a bearish setup, I'm as bullish on alts as I would be on Bitcoin. So there's not one that stands out more than the other. They're all equal in their potential to move, which is good. So that means that so long as the market is kind to us, we can look at all these charts and favour them upon what we see, which is a good time, it's a good few days or a good week to be alive, I suppose, for altcoins, because we can look at their charts and take them on face value, even if it's just for the next few days or the rest of the week. So, and excuse the hair, by the way. I'm still waiting for this hairdresser's to open. I've shrunk my little picture in the corner because if it was much bigger, you just see hair. It's just getting out of control. Right. So let's get on these requests then, shall we? So we'll do a good 20 minutes, and then I'll open it up to the masses and see if they want to join. So, good times. I'd like to have your view on audio. Is that the first one, by the way? 'Cause sometimes this cuts off. Yeah, it is. That's the first one. Okay. Audio. Yeah, let's have a peep. See you later, Fet. Actually, this works differently, doesn't it? This now. Also, if you want me to look at stuff, let me know the pairs that you want me to look at them with. It's just easier. Right, audio on the daily looks pretty good, actually. It looks pretty good. So it's had an explosive blow off top moment there. Let's just measure this out for dramatic effect. So last time we touched any significant moving average was here. So I don't normally swear, so I'm not going to start swearing. That was a fair old move there, and a pullback to the tune of 34%. Fair enough. So we're bouncing here. So let me just check these moving averages. What is this strange little pink job here? What is that? The 9? Don't normally have that. Sorry about this, guys. I have to get rid of that. I was going to say, it's confusing me. I've only just started using this Binance browser, so I have set my charts up more or less how I would do normally, but I've not put a great deal of time into it. So yeah, I mean, it looks to me like it's going to, and if it were to bounce, and if it were to still be bullish, it would bounce from here. This would be the let me just double check. Yeah, that is the 7 simple. 7 simple moving average is where it should bounce if it's going to stay super bullish. If that fails, then it would be the 10 exponential. So that'll be a further drop. Now on the daily, let's just have a look, because this chart's not very old, is it? So the money flow index has come down to a nice read here. Is there some? Oh, that's annoying as well. Is there a trend line of some form? It's very rough. It's very rough, and we have roughly just kind of broken below it, but that's no problem. So if we were to look at that, that's kind of how it's moved in the past. We should be looking for a bounce more or less here. So we might be bouncing early. If I was to get involved in this, I would get in here with some, and if it came down further, I'd get in here with a sum. And if it broke down from there, then yeah, unfortunately, you're probably going to come all the way down to the centre, quite a significant drop further. There's nothing on this daily to suggest that would be the case. It doesn't look particularly scary. Let's have a look on the 4-hourly. 4-hourly, yeah, it still looks like it wants a little further to come. It wants to come down a little further here. But when you see these, like especially with the MACD kind of moving quite steeply like this, there's a very small tick on the histogram to say that it wants to change, and it might do. It's trying to break up above this 10 exponential on the 4-hourly, but for the moment it's been used as a resistance zone. So it's being sandwiched down to either more or less this bottom bit here. That's so annoying. So if we imagine this being the rough trajectory, that's so annoying. This is the kind of formation, like a triangle, a wedge basically. A wedge is kind of going on here, and it's going to either break to the down or break to the up on the 4-hourly. Probably break to the up though, because that's how we would expect these. Money flow index ticking up already on this, so maybe the low is in. Again, looking at it on the daily, that's where I'd usually look for my entry points. We are having a bounce from here, so I think it's going to be good. So that said, I can't really give you targets on this one. Again, it's a very young coin, and it's going crazy, isn't it? So I would imagine there's a lot of people looking at this and very keen to get back involved. And if the vibe is bullish, let's just check the volume. If the vibe is bullish, then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it ends up being more bullish. People trying to take out that last high, and that could easily happen. We're not, like I say, we are not at this point particularly overextended, but let's accept this for what it is, what we are seeing, what we're looking at here, which is a very bullish chart. It's been bullish for a long time. This could be a blow off top situation. So for us to try and reclaim this, and if you're holding on or buying back in the hope that we're going to go higher than this, I wouldn't get your hopes up particularly. Normally, when you're looking at something like this, unless you're already in it, I would move on and I'd look for another opportunity. My preferences are always buying bottoms, not tops. So that's that one. Hi CC, can you have a look at BTT? Yeah, let's have a look at that. So this one was really taking me off guard. I honestly thought that this was dead. I honestly thought it was dead. And it's clearly not. It's doing a holochain, isn't it, really? I honestly thought that this was a dead token. Well, I traded this all the way up here, thinking, wow, could you imagine Bitcoin torrent token going that high? That's ridiculous that it could even get that high, when you really think about how many of them there are and how crap they actually are, really. I mean, you know, who needs them? Do you know? Who needs them? I mean, what is the point? But again, you know, I'm not here to question fundamentals. That's the last thing I do. A chart is a chart. So I mean, it's absolutely mega bullish. So for the moment, it's just mega bullish. Now let's have a look at what went on here. So we got conversion baseline crossover here. This was the signal. And since then we have. Well, I mean, this was just one of the signals. So if we just measure it from there to there, 183 from this point forward, and back here we had our golden cross. So again, this also was a signal as well. And actually, if we zoom in even further, it's not even letting me do. What's going on here? It's not even letting me do that. There was a conversion baseline crossover here. So this, you know, for those who paid attention, this would have been great, because what we're looking at here was a conversion baseline with a golden cross all the way back down here, offering us a 1,100% move. So an 11x from where we are at this moment in time. So since then we had a negative cross here and a new one over here. So this is the trend that's in play, and it's still in play at the moment. So there's nothing to suggest that trend is over with. It should in this, you know, as far as those indicators are concerned, continue. Now let's have a look at the RSI. Someone asked me previously to enhance the colours because they couldn't see properly, and fair enough. So I've made this, and my RSI is now like someone squirted mustard all over the screen, and it's not overextended there, definitely not. Neither is the money flow index. It's messy. It's definitely messy. So it would be, if you're looking to get involved in something like this, I mean, it's getting to the point where it's starting to become unstable, but the trend is still in place, so you have to treat it as such if you really wanted to get involved in this. Again, you know, when getting involved in something like this at this level, how far do you really think it's going to go? There's not really any way to particularly tell. Last time, and I remember this because I traded this, you know, when it was coming out. Last time we were loving it. We were absolutely loving it, and actually I remember it clearly because I was having a great time. There was clear stair steps up on this one. We were loving it. Stair steps up again, and then we started to make lower lows, and then the end of the world took place, and that's where I thought it was. It just when you thought it couldn't go down any further, it just did, and it just kept on going down. So I would be careful with it, because historically, you know, just when you think it's going to make another run, it doesn't, and it has been pretty nasty in the past. So I'm not a fan of it, to be honest with you. I'm just really not a fan of it. And again, you'd be looking to buy a potential top. Remember what I said at the beginning of this video: alts may easily continue, and you know, there could be a continuation of the current alt season. So that's the best way to look at it. I'm not calling for a new alt season. I'm looking for an extension of the one that we're already in. But we may not get that. Remember the Dixie. Remember all that. Remember the bearish divergence on Bitcoin. Remember all of that. So just keep all of that in mind, especially when buying something that has basically run 11x, and something that has in the past destroyed people. So just like I say, it's worth bearing in mind. Particularly not a big fan of it, to be honest. Let's just get my a Bitcoin one. I always have to have Bitcoin in the corner of my eye. So right, let's have a look at what else do we want. FRI, I never heard of it. Let's have a look at that. What is it? to USDT. Okay, let's have a look at that one. Right, so this is very, very, very young, but from what we can see, there's a pattern to it. There is a pattern to it. The pattern is outside of the Bollinger Band, down below it. Outside of the Bollinger Band, down below the center. Outside of the Bollinger Band, my expectation is that it will come down at least to the center of it and then down below it. Let's have a look at these moving averages. Okay, so we're crossing up here. So this could be, you know, the candle body that creates the wick that then gets sold off into, that brings it back down again. Again, the chart is very young. It's difficult for me to say. We've got hardly anything going here. So 4 hourly, it's the same kind of vibe. Let's have a look here. I mean, it looks like it wants to put in another one of those wicks on the daily. That's all I can say. Whether that wick takes us, you know, a lot higher than it already has already, it's difficult to say. But the behaviour so far is up outside, down, crash down below the centre, up outside, crash down below the centre, up outside, maybe crash down below the centre. You know what I mean? So it's a tricky one. We have also, it's not run that high, has it? It's a very young chart, so with its with the fact that it's a bit wet behind the ears still, it's probably in the middle of doing one of those next runs, but be very careful with it, because I do not want to convert anything. Thank you. How do I bloody get rid of all that stuff at the side? Like that. So this top here, bring us down. That's a 44% retracement, deadly. This one here down to here, that was a 30% retracement. Not nice. So again, you know, this looks like it wants to put in another one of those new highs, new wick highs, and then it will come back down again. So that's that one out of the way. I like it for what it's worth, but at the same time, with new tokens, adds a large element of unpredictability. They go up until they don't, basically. Let's just check the volume on this. Volume's quite decent, I suppose. It's one of those CZ pump tokens. TOKO. Never heard of these things. Ooh, it's not there, mate. It's not there. Oh, I've already missed one of yours here as well. Oh, it's a QCoin. Oh man, I didn't have it. I don't have it loaded up, mate. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it for you. I'll do it. It's my responsibility to do these things. I'm going to have to put all my indicators in on this one, so just bear with me for a few minutes while I do that. Come on, you. I never traded on QCoin. I mean, I did for a little bit, but it's just, it gets to the point where you have too many exchanges. I prefer Gate.io for some reason. Right, what are we looking at? Where is it? Where do I? I've even forgotten how to get the things up. How do I get the bloody things up? Well, for some reason it saved my moving averages, which is nice to see. It didn't do that before. Ah, it was just for that. It was just for my Bitcoin one, right? Okay, so let's just look at it for what it's worth here. Right. Okay. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna add the itchy cloud on this one, because this one looks like it's in the midst of a trend reversal. So let's see if there's any confirmations of that here. It's in the cloud, so not particularly a good place to say yes, it's working. The wicks are pretty sharp and deadly, but from this area, which clearly seemed to be a bottoming area, it's started to move. Now, because it's volatile like this, I would imagine that it is in a trend reversal. This reminds me of things like SXP, when they have basically fallen out the absolute sky and then they start getting back in again. These probably are a little bit worse than they look on the chart. Yeah, it's about 57-58% retracement from that wick down to this low. Another big pump, another massive dump. Look, I mean, what's the volume on this? Where do we even find the volume trading on this? can't see it, but I imagine it's not enormously high given the wicks that we're looking at. Look, it probably is reversing its trend, but this and if that's the case, then we've got to look at some of these zones around here. Previous supports and resistance, we're having issues getting above that there with these candle bodies rejecting around here. That would correspond to historical price action. Let's just zoom this in a bit. Historical price action that takes us back to in kind of these zones, rejection here. I mean, it's a bit of a fine mess. Yeah, I mean, if it were to continue, then this probably would be an epic coin. Let's just have a look at the weekly as well. The weekly might offer us some more clues. Right, okay, so massive cloud to get through here. So that's a tough call there. That unfortunately makes me a little more skeptical about it. The fact that it came on like this and just dumped shortly after. When was this? 2019 as well. So yeah, I'm a bit skeptical about it. On the weekly, it doesn't look particularly amazing, and we've got this huge cloud is that's just a real problem. It's a real problem, dissipating all the way to towards the end of the year, really. September, October, November. There's not even an opportunity for it to go green. So personally, on the weekly, where we would like to see some decent signals, the one thing I could offer you in the case of the bulls is that there is a conversion baseline cross down here, which should play out to an extent, and that could take us up to the cloud, which would be at the moment a 50 to 60% move, and that would also work out well, because if we did do that move, it would require us breaking out of above this rejection zone, which used to be, I suppose, rejection over here and support over here. Now let's just measure this. If we broke out of there, is it going to take us up to here? Or to here? Or to here? So yeah, I think it will have a continuation in the short term, but I wouldn't get too excited for a long-term reversal just because the state of the weekly looks too overbearing. But yeah, to reclaim these last highs, that's possible. So that's a 100% move at best. Between 50 to 100% move is, I don't want to say likely, because I don't want you to throw your net worth in there, but it's not unlikely now. But personally, I wouldn't really want to touch it. I don't know what the volume is, but given the state of those wicks, I imagine it's quite low. LSK, COS and DENT, so everyone's getting their money's worth today. Right, so let's have a peep. So last time I was talking about my graphics card which was going to arrive. I should have known that there was a problem, because I bought a 8 gig graphics card off eBay for 85 quid, and well, it never came. So, and eBay cancelled it, and it was from a fraudster. So I got my money back, but no graphics card. So I've learned from that, stop being such a cheapskate when something's too good to be true. Probably is too good to be true. So computer's still lagging, but that's life. Right, so let's have a look. LSK, yeah, that's pretty good, I have to say. When do we get this cross? We got it here. Let's just measure that from 26 periods. That's unfortunate, so we can't treat it as a real cross because this was in the price action. Let's have a look at how crazy this area looks over here. So that's nice. Money flow index is good. So this is, it's okay, to be honest. It's okay. This could easily go more. The reason I say that is that the setup's good. We've got a divergence. We've got technically a conversion baseline. Let's just check the volume on this beast. It's pretty good. So yeah, I think it wants to continue, make another continuation move. Let's check the weekly for the next for what's going on here. Just measure these. These aren't particularly high. That was a rejection around 92. So yeah, I think this one will probably continue, stretch out a bit more. But again, you know, when I'm talking about the Dixie and things, and maybe a possible correction, you know, maybe the end of this week, maybe next week, who knows? But on the next big leg up for Bitcoin, so we've got to be careful with these coins that are pumped so hard, so fast. But in the short term, this one looks like it wants to continue. Would I buy here? No, I'm outside of the Bollinger Band. But you know how I stand on all those sort of things, don't you? I never buy outside of a Bollinger Band. That's just madness. That's crazy. Let's have a look at COS. So COS has been pretty bullish for a while now, hasn't it? So what's going on here? So this is coiling up, isn't it? It looks like it's coiling up, ready for a bounce. So it's not overextended on this occasion. A slight bearishness at that top level, but not particularly bad. This is a bearish divergence all over the place. As you can see, we're going up all the way, and the RSI is continuing to go down all the way. So it's not the worst thing in the world, definitely not. But it might be running out of steam. Let me just check on the short-term time frames. It's a difficult one to call because I think that it probably will make another stab, another attempt to move, just by the way that the formation of the chart, which to me, you know, trumps all other aspects. It looks like it's trying to continue this move here. We've come down to test the 7 simple moving average here, so I think it probably will come up. But this was a big wick here sold into. These are the two biggest candles so far, and it would be a closure or a break above that zone here, which would be the that would be the main vibe for me. And probably get a nice big probably take this one out. But overall, it does look like it's running out of steam. So for those who want me to name the price, that's 4.3 cents really. And then a continuation from there. Overall, the chart is bullish though. Let's give it its credit where it's due. Conversion baseline cross here, continuing with this golden cross back here, diverging all the way. So I do like it. And you know, long story short, I think it probably will make another big move up and take this wick out. But let's just be careful. As I said in my overall summary of the market. We have to be careful. Not immediately over the next few days, even though there might be a liquidity grab pullback. But let's be realistic about the bigger picture, which is going on. Same kind of vibe going on with DENT here. Really nice chart. You know, it's been bullish since back here, diverging all the way. Let's see how overextended we are. So the RSI is not looking too bad. There's no warning signals there. Money flow index. Peaked at 97, so no surprise for a pullback around that zone. But since then, we've tried to, and we have actually. So yeah, it probably will continue with this one, I'd say. But let me just think about this. I think it's almost certainly going to come back up and test this again. The way I would choose to play this is that this could be viewed as a double top if we fail to break above it. We'll probably try a few times, I would imagine. Try a few times, and if we get rejected on it, maybe another time, or maybe another 2 times, and the wicks are smaller each time, I would probably think it's time to get out. That's just based on chart behaviour, the way I've seen things play out before. Again, you know, it's massive. This has gone crazy. It's been huge since back here to here, 46,000. So that's not too bad as far as gains are concerned. And we're just going to have to try and take this out. That's all we're going to have to do. And keep your eye on the money flow index. We don't want it to get overextended again like it did before. Again, anything over a 96 is pretty much definitely time to get out. 96 is almost certainly the top as far as I'm concerned. Anything reaches a 96, it's time to get out. Doesn't matter if it's a daily, a weekly, 15-minute, you know, anything. It gets to a 96, it's time to get out. There's a pullback coming. Alright, please comment on LITECOIN for medium term, recent news involving PayPal. So, yeah, I mean the whole vibe with the PayPal, like I say in my summary of the market, is it's good long term definitely, but there's not been a great deal of reaction to that. I think that this one's going to make another run with Bitcoin. It's very correlated with Bitcoin. It's like Bitcoin's sort of young, weedy brother. I think Litecoin will have its time in the sun, definitely, and it could quite easily make another run up to its last high, or the top of the Bollinger Band, which in my opinion, that's actually quite likely. That's a 14-15% move in the short term. And again, if Bitcoin dominance does break down below 60, then we'll probably, I think we'll see Litecoin as one of the front runners of the top cap coins. It is primed in a way for that kind of a move, definitely when you look at these oscillators. But we've got bearish divergence on here. We've also got it on the money flow index. The only thing that we got in our favour is this fresh cross looking to take place. And if we break outside above this Bollinger Band, close above this Bollinger Band centre, then it would lend itself to the next big run up to, and maybe a little poke above the top side of the Bollinger Band. So about another 20% max move on this one. But overall, it's copying Bitcoin. So yeah, I'm not, I like that new development that PayPal has said. It means that I can get ripped off for buying graphics cards with my cryptocurrency, instead of just ripped off with pounds. So that's good to give me that option to rip myself off and with different currencies, crypto. And I'm actually really in favour of that, because I don't know if you're like me, but if you've got loads of cryptocurrency and you're looking to obviously cash that out, then you've got your capital gains tax and things like that. It would be nice to be able to use it, like an actual, to pay for things in it. That would be great. It means that I can buy stuff instead of having to convert it, pay taxes on it, blah blah blah. I'm all up for that. But at the moment, it's not reality yet. It's still very much a dream, and the whole the buy the rumor, sell the news didn't work this time. So but long term, that is the dream. It's like the darknet above the darknet. This is what the darknet have been doing this for a decade now. Finally, we can do it in legitimate means. Not that I've ever bought anything on the darknet, but if I were to, that's you can buy anything you want with Litecoin and Bitcoin and stuff like that. It'd be nice to be able to do it in real life. So yeah, I like it until I'm able to do it and other people are able to do it. It's just a rumor that wasn't bought, which is unfortunate, because I would have expected something a bit bigger than that. Evening CC, just a question about what kind of a dump is likely to take place after this alt run, and whether you expect XRP. Do you think XRP would be a better hedge than Bitcoin after the dump? Well, if we go back and have a look at Bitcoin, so the bearish divergence on the weekly and the 3 daily would lend itself to a larger dump, right? The largest dump you would expect to see would probably be down to the 20 weekly moving average, that coming in at the moment around $38,500 from wherever we are. And that dump doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. This could be a miniature bear market, for a month or two, or just a few weeks. But that's where it would bring us down to, wherever that is at the time. And if you have a look at the way that it's moving, it's moving up quite steep all the time. So this would be the support, basically, in the event of a bear market or a dump. Also, and I've not got it here, but on the money flow index, actually this is looking quite interesting now, isn't it? We have had this uptrend of support, roughly speaking, on the money flow index on the weekly. It's very rough and ready. This would also help me decide whether or not there's a bottom, a potential bottom around this zone, because if there is, we've bounced from it each time, and we could probably bounce from it again. So it wouldn't be the end of the world, and it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to see such a significant pullback, or it's a correction, isn't it? It's a correction, is I suppose the right word, and it might take place over a period of months, and it would coincide with the rise of the Dixie, which is what I said at the beginning of this video. As for hedging into XRP, well, that's an interesting one, and I think I've mentioned it on the Telegram that I'd be quite happy to buy a lot of XRP, after May into August, because that's been my original overview of XRP's market cycle. So it's a gamble, obviously. It is a gamble, because XRP carries all kinds of crazy risk, especially with what's going on with it at the moment, and the fact that it might not work. TA isn't an exact science, But I do favour it doing a good move, you know, from wherever it is from May onwards. Doesn't mean that if you buy it in May, because I said May's the earliest it would ever move, but it also works out like what I said about the Dixie. It will free up a lot of these alts, and May would be the earliest I'd expect anything from XRP. So yes, hedging into it against Bitcoin. I suppose in answer to your question, a yes or no, I'd probably say yes. I think XRP, you know, after May will have the bigger move to have than Bitcoin, probably by quite a large margin. So yeah, I suppose I've said it out loud now, so you can all unsubscribe and unlike the video. Yeah, I know how that sounds as it was coming out of my mouth. I recognise what it was I just said, and that might carry a lot of emotion with a lot of people because it's a very divisive coin. But look, it's just the chart, alright? It's just the chart on a very long-term basis. And the good thing about XRP is that it's got such a long history that it does offer more security in the technical basis, because it's a longer chart. You've got more history. You've even got a full-on market cycle in it, and this one that currently is playing out very similar to the last one. And if it does do something like that, it would suggest that the biggest gains are going to happen towards the end of the year. I'm not saying it's going to do anything close to what it did last time, but to make a new all-time high, I think is very, very, very likely at the end of this year. And the freedom for it to be able to do that would be any time from May onwards. So yeah, it would be a better hedge, because if we're thinking about it now, you know, it's what, I don't know what it is right now. It's about 56 cents or something like that. So you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but so yeah, I mean, that's not exactly a 10x if it reached its all-time high. It's a 5x, but you know, just maybe 6x. But you know, what is Bitcoin likely to do? Is it going to reach $1 million like other people reckon it will? It could. I mean, at the end of the day, it could, couldn't it? I mean, it's impossible to say. It's impossible to give price predictions that far ahead. I know that lots of people like to do it, and I'm sure they do it for their views. It is impossible to say. The point I would make, you know, in the favour of these ridiculous price predictions for Bitcoin is that there is, and I sound stupid when I say it because it sounds like every other moon boy, but there is a finite supply, and every day that goes by there's more of that supply gets taken up by whales, institutions, and just general people hodling it forever. And one day the supply will get relatively thin, to the point where it won't take much for the candles of large sizes to be created. That's how a candle gets formed, basically, is by people willing to pay more than the asking price, lifting the price up more and more and more. And so if people are just buying it to hodl it and keep it, then to be honest, you could end up with ridiculous sized candles for Bitcoin, which sounds mad, but it's that's a very layman's version of how a candle is made. But you know, with a limited supply and people not wanting to sell it, that's how you could come to the conclusion that it could be $1 million at the end of the year. I think it's highly unlikely. I don't think the supply is going to dry up that soon. People will want to sell it, especially when they see, you know, when the market cycle starts to come, you know, to a close. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent again, but yeah, XRP, yeah, I'm all for it. Can you also have a look at GRT, SXP, and Ocean? Yeah, let's get rid of some of these because my graphics card can't handle it. And soon I'm going to open this up to the public, so if you all want to get your questions in, do it now. Right, so yeah, GRT. I think the last time we saw this, I said if you want to catch a knife, that's what you'd be doing. You'd be catching a knife, and for those who caught that knife, well played. That was a fine catch of a knife, to the tune of 36%. So well played you for doing that. So now what we're looking at is a pretty bullish looking chart, actually. It's looking pretty good. So yeah, consolidation. Do we have any kind of... Not really, it's not very neat. I'm not going to go for the wicks either. So we're just going to look at this on the basis of the way that the chart is presenting itself. So we are above the centre of the Bollinger Band. The Bollinger Band is still facing down, so we could easily come back down to test this. Are we going to break down below it? I don't know. I don't know if we're going to do that. But the money's trickling back in, and the MACD is about to cross. Well, it is already crossed, but it's also going to cross over to the 0 point and above that. So it does favour itself to have another big move, actually. If that is the case, then yeah, it probably will do a decent move. Now the Bollinger Band will keep it relatively low for the moment. It's not going to stretch too far outside of these Bollinger Bands, I would expect. We might get a wick to this level here, which is $2.11. We might get a wick up to there and then obviously come back down, and we have to allow for this Bollinger Band to start to snake up again for it to technically be in an uptrend. It's not in that at the moment. Technically it's still in a downtrend, even though we're in the bullish portion of this Bollinger Band. We don't have any particular signals on it, and it's a young chart, so there's all of that against it. But just from what we're looking at now, I think it favours at least another stab up to its previous high over here, where it'll probably get rejected, I would imagine. And then we'll have to wait and see if an uptrend begins and if it starts. If we do get above this cloud, we could end up getting, and this is just speculation, we could end up getting a decent conversion baseline cross above the cloud. But at the moment, the knife catch was a good call for those who did it. Too risky for me, but for those who did it, well done. And I would imagine us to probably move up to this level here. Everything on this daily suggests that is what's going to happen. Also, I'm not going to count this for a great deal, but there is an incoming golden cross on the 4 hourly, which is likely to get dumped into, because that's how these things work. So golden cross probably between the next couple of days will happen, and then probably move down to at best, at the very most, it'll probably move down to the 200 exponential. That's where I'd imagine us to have a flash dump to, which is at the price of $1.67. Don't quote me that is the absolute to the penny where we're going to come down to, but I would expect us to do that. I would expect a retest of the 200 exponential on the 4 hourly, given the fact that we're getting a golden cross here. Because people go mad on golden crosses. Oh, it's coming! The golden cross is coming. It's going to go up, and then obviously that's what it generally does. That's what generally does happen when a golden cross happens. But yeah, a lot of people get liquidated in the process. Right, SXP. After this, I'm going to open it up, I think, to the masses. But if you don't want me to do that, I won't do it. So SXP had a bit of a news event, didn't it, today? The news. They did something, didn't they? They bought something. I don't know. It's just news, isn't it? So yeah, it caused a pump, and that's what caused that pump. But based upon the chart alone, look, that pump, or the bottom of that pump was the center of the Bollinger Band and the 10 exponential all at the same place. That is super support zone right there. So whether or not we dump down into it first or we continue with this, I think the chart is good. I've always liked this chart. I'm still in this. I've been trading this. I've held this for quite a while now. It's been a painful journey, I have to say. I don't dare trade it. I bought in down here, and I've held. I sold some, but I've held half, and I will continue to hold half until I feel as though that maybe the market's had an end. Look, this is a good chart. This is a good chart. It's crazy. Someone's told me that this is like a cup in handle, which I suppose you could make that argument that it is a cup in handle, although it's a messy one. But yeah, I guess you could call that a cup in handle. There's your cup, there's your handle. I wouldn't want to drink my tea out of that. It might be hard to hold it in my hand. But technically, I suppose you could call it a cup in handle, because if we just to draw it, why is that this horrible grey colour? But I don't need to draw it, you can see. I suppose you can call that a cup in handle. So a cup in handle normally ends with a big break to the up. So I am still looking for this area here, $4.32, to maybe even the top area here, $5. This would have to happen relatively soon for me to continue with my confidence in it, given what I've said about the overview of the market and the Dixie and things. But yeah, I like it. I think it will continue, and I think it's going to try and have another big push up to the last. Obviously, it needs to break through $4 again. The next time it breaks through $4, I'm not even going to mark that out, but it needs to take out this candle body high here. and if we were to break out of there and get supported on it, a clear retest and support, then we are looking at new all-time highs, and given the way that XRP is, they could be pretty significant, but I'm not going to give you any price targets because it's not possible for me to do that. Let's have a look at these over here. So bearish divergence to the max on the RSI, so that's a little scary, and money flow index also. But in the bulls' favour, we are trying to make a positive cross again on the MACD. MACD is all over the place as well, so this coin is all over the place. It's shakeout central. It's a rough ride, so this isn't for the faint-hearted. Hopefully we'll all be rewarded, but again, you know, at the moment we're playing out what could be a very rough and messy and rocky uptrend. But this is how it's behaved in the past. This is worse than it was back down here, I have to say, though, because even though the moves were bigger at the beginning of this uptrend, they were more constructive. So bottom, big move up, down, center of the Bollinger Band, big move up, down, below the center, big move up, and then we had a decent uptrend. Now what we've got is an emphasized version of that behavior. So big move up, down, center, break down to the center, break down below the center, similar to what happened over here, but worse. Above center, below the center, so it is still very much in line with its behavior. It's just it's a very difficult one to trade, I have to say. It's a very difficult one to trade. I wouldn't try and trade it. I bought into it. I'm willing to hold it. I think it will make a new all-time high. And Ocean, let's have a look at that. So Ocean again is pretty rough and ready, isn't it? It's all over the place, to be honest. A new chart as well, so it doesn't offer a great deal of much going on here. So this is good in a way, because what we've got here, we had a conversion baseline crossover here, which is technically still in play. It's holding on for dear life though. You know, we've got a few days to go by before this crashes into this price action, cancels out the last uptrend, which began here. So it's still in play. Technically it's looking rough and ready. Divergence across the board, which is nice, coming up towards the top of the Bollinger Band, and all these tops. So this is the problem over here. This is the big problem here. So it's a bit crude there, but $1.60 roughly, which is also the top of the Bollinger Band, which is what I would imagine we would find another rejection from. It doesn't look particularly strong at this point now. It does look like it wants to get rejected, and then if it does get rejected, we'll likely have the conversion baseline. We'll get a Chiku span into the price action, so that'll be cancelled out. But you know, that said, looking at the state of the MACDs, that's okay. Again, like everything else, bearish divergence, like everything has. So this is why I'm looking at things very cautiously overall at the moment. Everything's got bearish divergence on it. We're looking at everything like it's in a continuous uptrend, but there is a very strong chance that these uptrends will end, and then they will go into a period of consolidation. Which could take several months, and it's all based upon the Dixie, like I said in the summary. So let's not. I'm trying not to get too greedy about these things, and I am thinking very much of taking some decent profits and maybe, you know, sit on the sidelines. So this is very toppy here, top. It's just a top all over the place. We can break above it definitely, but the weight on this one looks quite heavy for me, and that this one is about to fizzle out. It's at least fizzle out its previous this current uptrend, which is a bit lame as well, by the way. So this was the confirmation here, and we did move up and topped out around here, had a massive correction, and we're probably going to top out there again, in my opinion. There's no point in looking at the weekly. Let's have a look at the 4 hourly just real quick. Doesn't really offer me much, to be honest with you. So I do like the token, I love it, but yeah, it looks a bit toppy, to be honest, a bit toppy. Right, and on that, let's open this up to the masses. Hey, 5 likes, 6 likes, that's a bit better. Come on, guys, like it. Let's make me popular. I don't want to get famous, but I wouldn't mind some people joining this if they think I'm popular. Do you know what I mean? I need you to pull the wool over people's eyes and like this and make me look like I'm popular. Come on, guys, do me a favour. 9, that's a bit better. That'll have to do. So let's have a look. How harsh do you think the bear market cycle, the bear cycle, will be with all the institutional investment and hype? More or less the same, to be honest with you. More or less the same. I don't really think it will anything will avoid the inevitable bear market. So if you're referring to the one that's expected at the end of the 4-year cycle, right? So I would expect that it would behave exactly the same way. What was the last retracement? I should know this. I think it's about 85%, might be more. Yeah, it's 85%, give or take. So that was the last one. We've had bigger ones than that in the past. And so when people think about institutional money is going to have to cause the price to be sustained, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't do that. No. Just because the price is high now doesn't mean that it's not overvalued. And the nature of candles, like I say, if everybody is panicking, if there is a sharp sell-off, like we've already seen sharp sell-offs with all this institutional money in it, right? We've had them a few times. Institutional money came in between 10, 20, 30,000, and since we got in those levels, we've dumped down 30%, 25%, 18%. We have had pretty big dumps with all this institutional money in there, as well. Plus, you've got derivative markets as well pushing the price down with shorts. That has an enormous amount of weight on the shoulders of something that's already selling off. So, yeah, I would imagine it to play out, and it sounds crazy, but I would imagine it to play out to exactly the same extent that it has in the past. Now, saying that, let's just say that we reach. How far shall we go? The max we should get to, in my opinion, would be about $250,000. That'd be the max. So let's have a 85% retracement. Where's that going to take us down to? 33,000. So that's the ground floor, roughly, of where institutional money came into it. Now that's if we reached $250,000 per Bitcoin, we might not do that. We might only reach 100 grand. Give or take, the ground floor is not likely to be lower than, let's just say, 16,000. All right. So if we did do a full retracement, the ground floor is still going to be pretty high, and for those people, those big institutions that bought into it, it'll still work out okay for them, and it would be naive to think that they wouldn't be selling some too. You know what I mean? They probably would. They're going to have financial advisors, aren't they? And if a market cycle plays out the way it's always done in the past, they're probably going to dump a little bit, aren't they, and buy it back at the end. If they believe in it, doesn't mean they're going to hold it for dear life. They're not. Institutions aren't stupid. You know what I mean? They will take profit on that investment, and they will be loving it. They will be absolutely loving it, and then they'll buy it back. So with or without the institutions, the market cycle to me is probably the most relevant way of looking at it, and I think it will play out just like it has done in the past. Do you think companies who have bought millions of dollars worth of BTC and put it on their balance sheets, if they believe in it, will tank? Yeah, because it's not about it tanking, it's about the way it behaves. And my expectation of Bitcoin in the end, and this is the way it's going to end, unless of course regulations kill it or something horrendous happens, the way it should play out, in my opinion, is once the circulating supply equals it's never going to equal the total supply, but generally speaking, when it becomes a lot harder and more expensive to buy Bitcoin, and the people who hold Bitcoin basically have it, and the price is, let's just say, $1 million per Bitcoin in the next 5 years. So exchanges don't really have much of it to sell, and if they did, people, it's going to be expensive. Volatility on it at that point is going to stabilize, and it will trade probably roughly at about the same as gold does, which still is pretty volatile. It moves. Do you know what I mean? It's not static. Gold has big moves up, big moves down. We're still talking 20%, 25% or more ups and downs, but generally speaking, when it gets to that point where the circulating supply is so thin, it will not be as volatile of an asset as we know it. So what we're doing now is we're price discovering until that moment where that happens, and then it stabilizes, let's just say at $1 million, and then when it trades at $1 million, it'll fluctuate, 20% here, 20% there, 30% here, 30% there, but it will not behave the way that Bitcoin has always behaved anymore. It just won't behave that way anymore. It will have realized its true worth, and it will remain roughly at that value. And this is probably, I'm not saying that I think in any way the same as these top investors or whatever, but when you boil it down, that's the outcome that you come out with. There's always going to be limited supply, and the people who mine blocks, they will still always be getting it. It'll be less and less and less every 4 years, and it will lend itself to being more valuable. So the end result, if it continues the way it is a very expensive Bitcoin. But when the circulating supply becomes so thin, the volatility will dry up. It'll lend itself to a giant move up, and then after that it will stabilize reasonably, and the volatility will decrease. And so these institutions, they're in it for the long game. And like I've just shown, if you had a full-on retracement from $0.25 mil, it brings you down to their entry points, and they probably will be selling some when it gets up that high. They'll probably be scaling out, not with massive amounts, but they will be taking some profits. They might even be recovering their original investment to a large extent. Do you know what I mean? And then they will be buying it back, and then that'll be it. That'll be probably the last market cycle that behaves anywhere like this, and all the ones in the past. And the ones in the future will be probably take on a new form where it's less volatile. There will still be a 4-year market cycle, because that's generally dictated by the 4-year halving event, but and it was likely to continue to go up in price exponentially, but at a much lower rate, and the dumps will be lower as well, so the volatility will decrease. So yeah, they're in it for the long game, but it won't stop this next dump from happening at the end of this year into next year. I imagine that will play out just the same, and it will only really start to change when the circulating supply becomes so thin that there will be, at that point, it will be devoid of such large corrections and dips, because at that point any Bitcoin that becomes available will be bought back up, and but it won't be like now. If you wanted to right now, you could go and buy Bitcoin, couldn't you? I mean, I could, you could, anyone could go and buy Bitcoin. There is a finite supply, but it's still pretty much available. We can get it if we want it. Do you know what I mean? And then there'll be a point where it's not like we wouldn't be able to get it, but it'll be very expensive because the supply will be so thin. Hopefully that logic makes sense to you, and that is just my opinion. All right, that's just my opinion, but that makes most sense to me. So yeah, I still think that they're expecting it to tank, in your words, tank. But yeah, I suppose that's an appropriate word for what's going to happen in next year. But that might be the last year that it happens to that extent. They're in it for the long game. Have you looked at Pro? No. Is it on old Binance? Well, I don't know about that. Hey CC, can you have a look at HBAR? Yeah, let's have a look at that. Right. So it's looking pretty good here. A very clear and strong support on this last big top here. So testing the center, boing, 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 reclaiming the 10, boing, 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 and launch. It's probably going to continue, I'd say. This one looks pretty strong to me. This one looks pretty good indeed on the daily. So yeah, I think this is great. So basically everything's crossing up, everything's turning up, and we don't have bearish divergence really. So yeah, this is a very strong, good looking chart. There's nothing not to like about it. The only thing I would say is that your entry points are always, for me, going to be at moving averages, and the last entry point was yesterday. We don't have one today, so whether we have to wait for this to catch up with the price action, or we dump down into either the 10 or the 20. But overall, the chart looks pretty good. Now let me just measure that out on the weekly to see how overextended we are over here. So we are quite high on the weekly money flow index. Jeez. That was a dump, wasn't it? Down there, that was you don't normally see money flowing indexes give us such excellent opportunities, but that really would have been one. They're better at exit points than they are entry points, I have to say, but seeing a weekly down there, it's always worth a stab, I'd say. So it is looking a bit overextended, not overextended, but getting close to being overextended, but the RSI is still bullish, it's not bearish. The only thing that would concern me would be, if this reaches 96, which it's not even reached 96 in the past. It lends itself to another big push up, definitely. But yeah, how far could it possibly go? I don't know. But the trend is still good, so I like it. ENJ. Right, let me just have a quick think about this one. Right, so the cross was here, so that was your entry point. The trend began here at that conversion baseline cross. We are up 300% from there to a maximum of 400% up there. We are right in the centre of the Bollinger Band, which is fine. This one looks like it wants to give us an entry point, I have to say, but this isn't crossing. This is still descending. It would be this would be up to you if you wanted to try and catch the old knife, I would say. But it doesn't look particularly bad. Let's just go to a smaller 4-hourly time frame. We're trying our best to hold above the centre of there. Don't think it's going to manage it, but let's have a look here. Right, this is probably going to give you the entry point that you want. Whether or not you want to take it is up to you. I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not advising you financially, if that's the right way to say it. But 4-hourly suggests it wants to come down, so does the daily suggest it wants to come down, but so far it's held reasonably well on the centre of the Bollinger Band. Each time we have snaked down below it a little bit. So if you were desperate to get in this one, the trend is still going. This hasn't touched the price action, these two haven't crossed, so it does look like it wants to continue. It's looking a little weak, but if there was an entry point, it would be between areas of around $2.31 and $2.35, so not far away from where we are already, to be honest with you. And then I would imagine it would bounce from there, and maybe it would carry on with its run. The moving averages are all diverging still. It's just a little bit of weakness on the MACD, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is weak. It's redistributing. Usually when you see these, and this isn't, we had a negative cross here, that's fine. We had a big run up here, negative cross here, but these aren't diverging to a large extent. It's not massively bearish. The volume is trickling out, as you can see, but it had an enormous run. Let's just check the weekly to see how extended we were on these things, and that was quite high. So yeah, 94.5. It probably will make another run, I would say. But when we look at it on the weekly, we do see how extended it really is, with 1, 2, 3 weeks outside of the Bollinger Band. And Bollinger Bands, they generally have price action, take place within the Bollinger Band, 95% of the time. But the daily suggests that it wants to continue. Let's just check the 3 daily. Yeah, I'm in favour of it having another push up, definitely, to at least close to $3. I would say that it's probably almost certainly going to reach $3 again, sooner rather than later, if the market is kind, obviously. But yeah, I quite like it. I think it's okay. But yeah, weekly says it's overextended to an extent. So, hey Gemma, my name's Jammer. How are you doing? Well, Ocean, we've checked that one. Let's have a look. I hear people talking about this a lot, and that's probably why. So yeah, that was a big 3 daily move. When did that take place? Was that over the space of a day? Right. So yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to touch it now. I mean, the daily is this is more of a rejection than it is a push, more than anything. So that's at 18% just from its top today, and we're outside of the Bollinger Band, which would suggest that it wants to come back in. That's how we've behaved on these occasions. We had a big push outside of the Bollinger Band here. We got sucked down into it, back down to the centre of the Bollinger Band. So that's how it's behaved in the past. Obviously, when we see top performing coins of the day, which this probably would have been one of them, we'd be like, oh, this is a good one. But it's not good to buy here, in my opinion. It's a bit deadly. But if we get the opportunity to buy even at the 10 exponential, which is today at around $1.45, it might be worth a shot. And if not, we'll come down to the center of the Bollinger Band again. And again, these don't have to happen today. So when I'm saying this could be a 32% retracement, I say that because that's what it is today. This Bollinger Band, this the center here, the 10 exponential also, they're all facing up. So every day that goes by, the supports will be higher. So that's why I like to use moving averages and not plot out particular areas of, oh, this is the resistance zone, on a horizontal or a vertical channel. But yeah, that's how I choose to view it. Now, where did this start, shall we say? Probably here, the retest of the 200 exponential there, and that doesn't work. So yeah, I would wait patiently if you really wanted to get involved in it for those retests. Now let's have a look over here. 91, so it's got room to move on the money flow index, definitely. It is bearish divergence on the RSI, but not massively. I wouldn't say it's anything to write home about. These are pretty overextended, but that's cryptocurrency for you. The main thing would be to see how extended this is, and it's not particularly massively overextended. So yeah, it probably will make another run, but don't go buying it blindly. Buy it very carefully, because in my opinion, just like I said at the beginning of this video, there is reason to be cautious, especially if Bitcoin pushes up particularly strong and fast, and break above its all-time high and maybe towards the upper 60s, 68,000 perhaps, maybe 70. I would be looking to get out of a lot of my positions around there because of the warning signs. So if Bitcoin decides to go into a sustained, even if it's just short-term correction period, I imagine alts will really probably get wrecked. I would imagine, but it doesn't mean that they can't have another party, before that happens. Steam. Let's have a look. Whoa. Oh, this is one of those coins that people said was a scam, isn't it? Is this one that's related to related to EOS in some way? I might be wrong. But yeah, I mean, that's a fine old move, wasn't it? That was a fair old beast move today. Now what's it going to do now? Well, probably come down, to be honest. But if we look at the way that this is shaping up on sats, it's really good, really good. We've got incoming golden cross here, and we have conversion baseline cross here as well. So this one does look really good, actually. It does look really good. Doesn't mean that it's going to continue from the price that we're at right now. I would expect it to come down inside the Bollinger Band, just as it did this last big massive beast mode. Came down quite a lot. But as far as a trend is concerned, the trend looks like it's going to begin. When these crosses happen, I expect dumps into it. So we can get excited about this chart soon when we get that golden cross and when we get a decent entry point. If the market corrects, and I'm not saying it's going to correct, just put everything into perspective. That's why I do those summaries at the beginning of these videos, so you have an understanding of what I'm expecting. Short term, long term, mid term. But this now is shaping up to be one of those charts which could offer a full-on, decent, I'd say, decent reversal over the year. And it doesn't mean that it's going to go to whatever it was in the past, which obviously that would be the dream, wouldn't it? What would that be? A 49,000% move? That's not out the realms of possibility. We've all seen what happened with Holochain recently. That's close to doing something along those lines. So it doesn't mean that these things can't happen, but for the moment this is shaping up really good. So positive cross, that's going to get across. We'll probably get a dump into it. That's how I'd expect this to play out. Weekly still pretty strong resistance zone all the way through here. When does this come to an end? September. So yeah, it's hard to say because the weekly is different to when I spotted the Holochain thing. That had a much better setup on the weekly than this does. This one has got a good daily, so that will only go so far. The weekly is when you look at things for a full-on trend reversal, and this one doesn't have it, at least for a while anyway, until September at the earliest. So, but yeah, I mean, the daily is looking pretty sweet, and I'd expect a decent pullback on that one. And if we still stay above the 200 exponential, which is the important thing, which is this white one, all the way down here at 1,000 sats, which obviously is a long way to drop, but this will move up slowly. So long as we get supported and stay above there, then yeah, I will keep this in mind, and I will monitor this chart myself. So thanks for bringing it to my attention. Not many Satoshi pairings look like this. Most of them are stuck below the center of the Bollinger, below the 200 exponential still, and not many of them have this kind of setup. So this one does look pretty good. So thanks for bringing it to my attention. I like the way it looks, and I will keep it. I'll keep checking on it, and maybe even start trading it, but not immediately. So just to put it out there, not immediately. It's turning into a decent setup for the short term after a decent pullback and a retest, probably of either this or this, but it doesn't mean it's going to come down there immediately. It could happen all the way up here. BAL, let's have a look at BAL. Bloody hell, time's ticking on. Right. Let's have a look against BTC, shall we? So yeah, this is the kind of vibe I'm getting with most of them. So yeah, below the this is an altcoin chart basically. So yeah, I mean, this could be the bottom, definitely. This could be how we spot the bottom. Retest of this bottom low here. Big move up, but rejection of the 200 exponential. So until we reclaim that, unlike what we just saw, yeah, there is pressure. Reclaiming this starts to get more interesting. Shall we have a look, to be fair, on Tether? So yeah, I mean, this is the sort of thing you want to see in a Satoshi pairing. On Tether it looks better, and it definitely looks better. It looks like he wants to make another run, another attempt to this high over here, 62. That would be a rejection. Breaking above there would be good and would likely have continuation, but probably get a rejection there. Top of the Bollinger Band, plus 2 areas of rejection already. We are probably going to do that, I would say. If we break above there and make a significant move above there and then get supported on this zone at 62.4, $62.43, then yeah, it has another opportunity to go higher. But for the moment, it will likely reach that zone and then get rejected. But yeah, the chart is good. The chart is good. We've got a conversion baseline crossover here. I don't think that counts though, from what I can see. That's 26 periods behind is yeah, it's here. So we already tested the so that's kind of 2 out of 3 confirmations, and actually now it's looking a little weaker as this blue conversion line is heading towards the conversion, the baseline, sorry. So yeah, it's good for what would that be? What is this move going to be? 8.5% move. It's good for an 8.5% move. Doesn't mean it's going to happen immediately, but it is good for that move, I would say. Do you think alts are going to pump hard? Or do you not think they're going to pump hard till next August? Well, that's a difficult one to really answer. I would say that if it wasn't for the state of the Dixie and the way that the Dixie looks at the moment, I would say that they probably would pump hard. But if this is what I imagine the Dixie to look like, which is, you know, something along these lines, you know, roughly like this, and then maybe a full-on rejection like that, then that leads us up to, you know, between May and August, I suppose. And this is looking at this. That's not the exact way that I imagine it to play out. The pitchfork is the important thing, and that's if the pitchfork remains relevant. In my opinion, you know, the way that this looks now is that there is going to be pressure versus the dollar. The dollar looks like it is. Well, it is in an uptrend. It's not that it looks like it is. It is in a confirmed uptrend. All right, but with every uptrend, you get, you know, pullbacks, and you'll probably get them with the dollar, unless something fundamentally happens with the dollar that makes it dump sharply. Then yeah, this is how it's going to play out until this rejection, and it might even break higher than 95. I don't think it will. I think that's its limit, it's 95. But yeah, this would stop alts and cryptocurrency from having any significant massive rallies But the Bitcoin dominance chart is bearish. We've got a confirmed bearish cross here. It's not perfect, but it is a cross all the same. You look at things in waves, right? We've had a good run of it, right? We've had a very good run. How many of these charts have we looked at already that are up over 1,000%? There's a lot of them, right? Even Bitcoin itself is up 1,000% from a year ago, right? More than that. So yeah, all good things come to an end, even if it's just for a short term. So personally, my preferred outcome, which is not the only outcome that there is, but my preferred outcome is that we might have a bit of a problem over the next few months as the Dixie goes up. And actually I would prefer that outcome, because if Bitcoin and everything else decided to rally too hard, too fast, it would cause a worse sell-off than is necessary. So yeah, I would say that the next big alt season, the big one, a really big one, where people reach their targets of Chainlink to, I don't know, $500. I'm not saying it's going to do that, but do you know what I mean? And Ethereum to $10,000. I'm not saying it's going to do that, but do you know what I mean? For these large cap coins to reach their moon boy predictions, then yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Even if we broke down below 60 now, people on Twitter will say other things, and other YouTubers will say other things, but for me, I don't think it's got that. The potential isn't there right now because of this Dixie, but the potential will be there, in my opinion, when the Dixie gets rejected. And if this is the rough, and again, this could go up and down, but this is a pitchfork is a general guide, right? It's not an exact science. A general guide of where the uptrend's going and where I expect the rejection to take place, giving us an idea roughly in time. And I think that's how it's going to go. So May to August, at the earliest May, at the latest August, yeah, big time. I am expecting big things, but we might get some more runs in the short term now, and that would be governed by us breaking down below 60 and everyone going, "Way, the time has come." But I think overall, I think we've had our fun already, and it's been a good time. All right, let's be grateful for what we've got, and I'm planning things this way round. This is how I'm deciding to plan things, a little safer. XLM, let's have a look at that. So yeah, a bit of a drag, this one, bit of a drag, because it's done so well in these big neat moves up and down, but this consolidation has taken longer than the last ones. From where we are right now to there, it's 45 days, and still no pump in sight. This one was 21 days, and this original one was obviously, it seemed quite long. That was 41 days. So I'm not saying that it's not going to do another one of these big moves. Behaviour suggests that it should, but at the moment there's not really. I mean, we're below the 0 point here, so even if we wanted to do a big move, doesn't look primed to do it, to be honest with you. It doesn't look primed to do it at all. And if we take much longer, we are going to be below this red cloud here. It's a bit of a drag. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit of a bummer. I think it's probably had its time already in the sun. Excuse me. And even though the behaviour suggests that it should have another big run, it's taking a little longer than it should to actually go ahead and do it. Let's have a look at the lower term time frames. If there's any clues there? Not really. I mean, it's reaccumulating, right? So this is up to you, and when someone reaccumulates, it's down to you and your belief, your confidence in that token in the long term. If you're happy to reaccumulate at this level, which is reaccumulating, that's what it is doing. All the moving averages are in the same place. There's not really any edge there to say that it's going to go up or down. It is just reaccumulating. That's what you'd expect to see of a MACD when it's reaccumulating. There's no edge, so it could go up and it could go down. So if we judge it on its behaviour, it would lend itself to a move up, but if the market does what I think it's going to do, then it might not reach its previous all-time high until we've had either a breakdown below 60, or we move into the next phase, which would be around May to August. And let's have a look. So May, there's no real there's nothing here to suggest that would be, and actually the weekly's looking pretty negative here as well. So yeah, it's very unclear. I can't really say. And ONT, let's have a look at that. So the weekly is good because it got this crossover here. That's good. Yeah, it's moved pretty well since then. So the weekly is a good setup. Daily is a good setup. This is pretty good, but I mean it's overextended at this very moment in time, so entry points are not here. But we've behaved relatively well since this pullback here. We obviously made a new all-time high. Was it today, really, as far as the candle body's concerned? So it's a good chart, it's a good coin, it's working alright. Let's have a look at how extended it is. It's got plenty of room to move on the daily and on the weekly, really, but be prepared for an entry point. I'd keep my eye on it, to be honest. I like it. Entry point would be around about $1.40 if it would happen today, but these are moving up quite quickly, and it would be the 10 exponential that would catch it, unless of course the market took a hit. If it was just ONT on its own, I would imagine it'd come down to test the 10 exponential, which is moving up quite fast. But for the moment, yeah, we've probably had our fun for the day. Algo, let's have a look at that. So I do like Algo. Oh god. So yeah, Algo had its run. It pushed up to and out of the Bollinger Band. Now the problem that Algo had was that it had such a big move and reaccumulated. The classic reaccumulation, as you can see, snaking above and below and above and below all major moving averages, and then it had a nice decent pump. This was a knife catcher, but then I know that this was emphasised by the fact that they were going to be doing loads of NFT stuff. Yeah, so loads of NFTs are going on Algo's chain, so you know that caused it to have that next big push up. But you know, as far as this is concerned, we do have an incoming possible conversion baseline cross. It's not confirmed yet, that's not an actual cross, but if it were to be a cross, and provided we don't dump down further than around about $1.18, or we could maybe even go down a little further to $1.10, then yeah, that'll be confirmed, and our entry point will be around about $1.21. If you wanted to try it, that would be. But I wouldn't expect a great deal from it, because the Bollinger Bands aren't going to permit such enormous moves. They pinched quite a lot. We broke above it, we got sucked back down below it. I imagine we'll probably come down to test the 10 exponential, which is it is facing up, and we will get that conversion baseline cross. These areas here, this is all looking quite good, and if it wasn't for my overall fear of the market, which is dictated by Bitcoin, by the way, so if Bitcoin wants to hang around sideways and leave alts to do their thing, and then alts break down below 60% dominance, then at that stage there probably will be another big push for altcoins that could continue for a week or two. And this would probably be one of the front runners if we get that cross here, but it's not going to move, you know, super bullish and super fast. The way that it's behaved in the past is nice and constructive stair steps up like this, and then it blew its top off, which was, you know, obviously the problem that it had here. This looks like it wants to start those stair steps up again. So if we were to imagine that this is the center of the Bollinger Band, right, at this rough trajectory, roughly, and again, yeah, this isn't the way it should, but it's just give you a guide, right? So we're looking for the support to be like this. We're looking for price action to kind of do this. Why is it? I need to change that. Why would I have something that looks so dull? Right, and this is just really annoying. Right, so this is roughly how it will behave. Oh my god, this is so kind of like that. But like I say, as you can see, if that's the vibe I'm expecting, it's slow and steady wins the race, and the bottom level of support takes us up to May, so maybe this will survive. Again, there's no exact science. I'm basing a lot of things on a lot of possibilities, my preference would be that there will be a bit of downside and everything will feel it. But if it didn't, this one would behave like that. But yeah, I'm just gonna have to leave that there. So yeah, ALGO's okay. I like it. It's one of the better ones. XVG, no problem. So I like XVG. We've already hit our resistance again today, so that's no problem. This corresponds to the supports and rejections around about this first initial pump, this little mountain that we had here. That's no big deal. That's no big deal at all. So if we have a look about a bit closer, this is where I was getting excited. This is where I was saying something was going to happen, and it caused a massive divide on the comments of this coin. I didn't realise it had so much love-hate relationship. It's kind of a bit like an XRP, from what I can gather, the way that people choose to view it. And actually, when you zoom out, XRP really, man, on the sats anyway. So yeah, in my opinion, this is going to break, and it will break out, and it will reach 100 sats, 95 to 100 sats. It's going to reach that probably sooner rather than later. This one is good. It's one of my new favourites, and one of the coins that I think is going to do probably the best long-term hodl that people probably don't. Again, there's obviously a very strong vibe against this, and until it starts to make some significant gains, it's not going to get an enormous amount of traction. So a rough trend line here of resistance, but it's no big deal. The main thing is to break above here and stay above there. A closure above 70 and a retest of the support will bring it up to between 95 and 100 sats short term. Long term, I would expect this to have a full-on trend reversal. If we go to the weekly, what do we see? This is where it gets interesting, right? So this is what separates this from some of those other coins on the weekly. So over the next few months, look, bringing us up to well, I mean, we're already there technically, getting above this cloud. Closing candles above this cloud on the weekly will offer the big moves, right? This is where the big moves will come from. Now, we can't look at this in the way that we would do normally with a conversion baseline cross, because it happened beneath the cloud. But what we can look at it is when you're above the cloud, it's resistance over, right? Long-term resistance over, and we can start to think about things in a long-term trend reversal, where, you know, I'm not going to say we're going to come up here. I'm not going to be able to say that, but to reach certain levels like 700 sats by the end of the year wouldn't be impossible, and that's what separates this chart from the others. This huge cloud of resistance, which is basically what it is. It's almost beneath us, and it's 70 sats, just like this is here. 70 sats on the daily. 70 sats. Getting above 70 sats, staying above 70 sats, and treating 70 sats like a support is going to offer us the 100 sats. And once you get to 100 sats, 150, 200, 300, so on and so on and so on, over the period of the rest of the year, we're in a good situation already. Golden Cross, which was dumped into quite heavily, tested several times on the 200 exponential. Now the uptrend has begun again in a much better fashion than it was around here. This was a double bottom. Look, bottom here, bottom, more than double. It was a multiple bottom area. This is for the knife catchers. This is for the bot traders like me, and now this is for the hodlers, because the trend is becoming stronger, and with a strength of trend offers a lot of opportunity, especially when you see a weekly offering basically next to zero resistance above us other than previous price action. This is turning a corner. Look at this, crossing over, quite bullish, looking quite nice, getting close to basically a full-on area of bullish mode. I like it a lot. I think it's good. I would suggest, you know, be cautious with this one, but for me personally, I like it. I like it a lot. Will you be closing FET trade here or in the next bit? Yeah, I think I will. And from my understanding, I won't close it all. I'll close probably half of it. But yeah, I think it's reaching its peak anyway, because from what I understand, there's a main net tomorrow, and I think that's probably going to burst its bubble. If it's not burst already, the main net could quite easily be priced in. but we're getting quite close to the price action. We'll probably have another run, and I know there's the token swap and all this fundamental stuff going on with it, and it is a good coin, and the chart is still good to go. It's been good since our entry point down here, but you know, how greedy do I really want to be? And I know I said when I got in on this trade that I would get out when I was told to on the Ichimoku cloud, but yeah, I think I should also think about taking some decent profits, which they certainly are. I mean, it's more than a 10x, isn't it? It's like a 10, 11 or 12x since we entered this one. So yeah, 1 to BTC. Right, so what's this trading at the moment? I thought it would be more than that. XVG trades higher than that does. Right, so this one could have reached its top. To be honest, it might have reached its top, but don't quote me on that. If we're looking at this as far as the trend is concerned, entry was here for this current trend, and it's still in play. Retesting of essentially the 10 exponential or the 10 exponential basically should offer another pop. Should get another pop. What was the rest of your question? Had a Bitsgap bot from. Oh, you want BUSD? Sorry, mate. BUSD. All right, so you got in at the top then. Oh no, right, okay, right, alright, so been going for 6 days, working well. Nice volatility, but concerned it may crash after such a rapid rise. Yeah, I can understand your concern, but if we're basing it on the chart, let's have a think about why it might crash if it were to crash at all. So we've got bearish divergence on the RSI, but that's no real big deal. We have roughly basically found a top at 20, but it doesn't mean it can't have another big push above it and then go on for another prolonged period. At the end of the day, this has gone pretty high pretty fast. Again, when we're looking at things that have gone so high, it does make you question how high can these things possibly go. And the whole vibe that I try and put across on this channel is to teach people about when we get confirmations of uptrends, not to get in on uptrends that have gone so high. I mean, this was massive. I mean, I bought this down at 22 sats. It was tiny. I mean, I can't say where it was exactly, but you'll find it on my YouTube channel. So, I mean, read that 4,170% move over a 88-day period, over a 3-month period. So yeah, I definitely got involved below there. How far can it possibly go? 100% more, maybe. You'd be very lucky if it were to. The beauty of getting in at the bottom of something is that 100% moves become very easy and way less stressful. At the moment, it does look quite toppy. Let's just check the weekly for these money flow index. That looks pretty nasty. So yeah, the money flow index to me here on the weekly is quite high, 96. We're opening and closing weeklies above the Bollinger Band. We haven't even got inside it, so I wouldn't be too fond of touching this one at the moment. I'm not saying it can't go any higher, but there's every warning sign to suggest that it should go lower. But it doesn't mean that it will. Sparta to BNB. Well, BNB's had a bit of a run, hasn't it? But this looks pretty sorry for itself. Looks pretty sad. It's a difficult one to chart because it's against BNB, which is pretty volatile at the moment. So it's gonna not really offer a great deal of signal. But I suppose if this is its only trading pair, then this is all we've got to go by. So let's take it for what it is. and it's not looking very good, I have to say. So Bollinger Bands have pinched quite tight, which means that there's volatility about to enter the market. We've got a negative cross below the cloud, which is a bearish sell signal there, and that is a good cross below the cloud because we've got conversion baseline and the Chiku span all below the price action and a big red cloud. So I don't like it. We're below the 0 point. It looks like we're snaking down for a negative cross below the 0 point. So I personally think it's bearish. Yeah, I think it's bearish. Also, do you know of any good bots around $50 to $100 Infinity Grids on Pionex? I just bought EOS to USDT. Alright, yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned EOS to USDT because I've been thinking about that too, as something to buy for a long-term position, because not that I'm mega bullish on EOS in any shape or form in the short term, but the long term I am, right? So $100 EOS to USDT. EOS is pretty volatile at these low levels, and the upside, in my opinion, is quite high. I think it could reach $13 no problem, and by the end of the year, and who knows, what the volatility will be like, during that period. So yeah, I think EOS to USDT is a good one to have. Yeah, so I would back you up on that and saying that I think that's a good plan. Quite rubbish. I'm quite rubbish though, so I might be a way off. I bought Sparta. All right. Yeah, like I say, I don't like Sparta. It doesn't look very good. You might use OI to USDT. Well, I mean, that's your call. If we have time, can you have FET? Yeah, let's have a look at FET. We like FET, don't we? I just had FET up, didn't I? So I suppose I just gave it an overview, but the uptrend is still in play. So I will treat it for what it is. I would expect a retrace, perhaps all the way down to possibly 71, but you know how this behaves. It can pump at the drop of a hat. So we'll look at the 4 hourly to see how that's doing. Yeah, it looks like it wants to come down a little further. Look, if this mainnet pumps it, then that's fine. If it doesn't pump it and the mainnet comes out, it might end up just dying off. So we'll treat it for what it is. This has been pretty volatile around these ranges. The thing that we don't want to see is we don't want to see this touch the price action, but for the moment I'm okay with it. If we have a look at all these indicators here, they're not overextended. We do have bearish divergence on there, and on the weekly we don't have bearish divergence on the weekly, so in that respect it's quite good. But if you have a look at the money flow index, it is getting quite high. It is getting quite high, and again, 95 has been our limit, so if we're not at a top, I think we're very close to a top. So yeah, that's that for you. How's the futures bots doing? Well, they did quite well. I made a video on it. I closed the EOS one down. I've opened up 3 more much smaller ones just with the profit that I made. So my original investment is safe, and I've split my profit up into 3 smaller bots. But yeah, I mean, it's working well. If you watch the video I made about the futures bots, you will get wrecked if you think that the bot is going to save you from being wrecked. You will get wrecked if you don't use it appropriately. Treat the futures bots like you would treat futures, right? If you're getting in on a trade, if you think that there's an uptrend, then go for it. If you're confident enough that there's an uptrend to go in on a margin trade, then that's fine. The futures bot will help you prevent you from getting as wrecked, but that you will still get wrecked if you think that the bot can just make you money. Look, my EOS bot managed to sustain a 15% pullback from my entry point. It didn't just stop me from getting wrecked, it actually profited from that in the long run. But if EOS had pulled back by 25%, it would have been a different story. So like I say, it was good that it's all on the video for you to see. But yeah, it's good. It's decent. Like it's pretty good. So right, I'm going to whiz through these because I've only got 10 minutes left. Do you hold CNS and CNI? Yeah, I do, but we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. What's your thoughts on Bitgear? I've never heard of it, so I don't know. Can you have a look at AGI? Okay. That's a weekly. The weekly looks okay. Daily also looks okay. So just from looking at it right now, I quite like the look of it, to be honest. Let's just go back to the weekly. So again, like when we see this weekly, we're above this cloud. It's gone green. If there's an opportunity to go, it'll be now. But you know, as far as the Bollinger Band is concerned, how it's not going to allow us to go much higher. I would expect. But this one, I think, I'd be right in saying that this one, by the end of the year, will do a full retracement. Just from what I'm seeing right now. We're above the cloud. The cloud's a little bit green here. We've got a conversion baseline here, so there's no big deal. It's below the cloud. It's not perfect. But when we go back to the daily, we've got our golden cross here, which was dumped into quite nicely. So wrecking everyone who got excited. And since then, we've had a nice sustained uptrend and a continuing with that uptrend. So I actually really like this. And you know, if there is another sizable pullback, and if we are lucky enough to come back down to maybe the 200 exponential, this would be a bot trader. I would say it would be a bot trader, because the long term or weekly looks pretty good to me, and the daily, you know, even though it can obviously, you know, crash back down to this level, I think this one is pretty good. It's similar to Verge, I would say. So this is pretty sweet. I like it, but I'm not saying it's immediately bullish, but we're seeing something here against Bitcoin, which is pretty sweet. We've looked at Win. Let's have a look. Someone sent me a donation, so let's have a look at what they want. IOTA. IOTA, should we have a look? What is it? To BTC, should we go for? Okay, so yeah, this is a decent setup too on the daily. So we got golden cross here. It's not particularly strong right this second. That can't be counted. That conversion baseline cross can't be counted. So the weakness is beginning to show. So we had a nice big move up here. The weakness is beginning to show against Bitcoin. Let's go to the weekly. Right. So again, this is another one of those which is showing between the areas of May to August. That if we are at this level or above, it will have the freedom to run. Yeah, this will be a front runner, I would say, for the next upcoming alt season, if not this one. So conversion baseline here below the cloud, continuation possibly from this level now. We are getting lots of wicks around this zone over the last few weeks. So we've had this zone many times at 3,000 sats. Once reclaiming 3,000 sats, it will run. It will run quite hard, in my opinion. There. But yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Inc versus BTC. Huh? Well, I don't know what that is. It's not there though. Oh, I think I know what you mean then. So do you want me to look at them both, including BTC? I don't know what you mean, but let's have a look at it. As you did pay $5, you get the full treatment. But if you wanted to join the Patreon, if you're not one already, it's £7.50 a month. You get 2 of these live streams a week, and that equates to 16 hours a week of this kind of epic entertainment. Definitely value for money. Right, so we are on the weekly here. So the weekly looks really good on Tether. And actually, when we're looking at this now, we're getting a U shape already, so this would lend itself to a much bigger move again over a period of weeks. So I think this will be one of the front runners of the next big alt season, which is likely to take place between May and August. But for the moment, it's good. It is good. I'm not going to lie, it's good, but it's weak at this current area. And is there any reason for it to be weak at this current area? Not particularly. It's not giving me any clear signs here, because basically what we're looking at here is flat price action, reaccumulation. It is reaccumulation at a bullish level, but the bottom line is we do have divergence with the main three, the 200, the 50, and the centre of the Bollinger Band. The moving averages are all in the right place, but for some reason it just doesn't want to go any further from this zone now. So it's unclear. If it is reaccumulating and the market is kind, we might get another pump on this one. But yeah, it's like I say, this is when reaccumulating, right? You've got to have confidence in the chart that you're trading, or the coin. If you like the coin and the fundamentals, and if you study it and you know there's certain things about it that you like, then you buy at reaccumulation zones blindly, and that's not an offensive term, right? You buy anywhere around here, because what this is doing is not telling you that it's going to go up. It's not saying it's going to go down. It's saying it doesn't know what it wants to do, because all the moving averages is in the same place. So if you really like it, and like I say, I've just shown you on the weekly on stats and on Tether that this probably would be a really good one to hold long term, as the opportunities are there for it to move long term. But whether it moves from this point forward or goes down from here, I couldn't say. Long term though, it looks pretty good on the sats, so I think it's pretty sweet. And you know what? I think I'm going to call it a day there. To be honest with you guys, I'm just gonna leave it there. But like I say, if you like what you see and you're not a member of the Patreon, there's a link in the description below. Sign yourself up there. There'll be another one on Friday or Saturday. I'm not going to be at my house, so I'll be using my laptop, so it might be a little crapper than usual, but next week back to normal, and I'm not planning on going anywhere again, so everything will be fine. So yeah, like I say, join the Patreon if you're not a member already, and if you are, thanks for watching, and join the Telegram. I'm in there every now and then from time to time. That's free. But other than that, I hope you have a nice evening, and take it easy.